So next up, we have our Bellevue School District Community Engagement Discussion. So I'd like to welcome a few of our speakers. First up, Dr. Ivan Duran. You guys can take a seat. We have some water for you, and those microphones are working. Dr. Ivan Duran is Superintendent of Bellevue School District. Thank you for coming. Next we have Huaxia Zhao, and Huaxia is he's a member of the Equity Advisory Group for Bellevue School District. Give him a round of applause. We have Dr. Francine Wiest, who sits on the Bellevue School District Board. And lastly, but not leastly, we have Ms. Jennifer Wang, who was the past PTSA president of Bellevue High School. So, Mr. Lee will be moderating, and I'll let him take over.
Okay, well, what a wonderful panel we have here, very austere. So, what we decided, because of economy and time, we're not going to have official introduction. I think it's going to be on the screen. You already seen it. It went by quickly. So anyway, so if each of you would like to say a few words about your background, feel free to maybe take half a minute or so. Anything that's relevant you feel, you can tell the people a little bit about yourself. After that, I will pose the questions to each panelist. And so why don't we start from the other end with Dr. Duran.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, a little bit. I know it's a Friday evening, end of a long week for me. Very excited to be here today. Had a really great day today. Started off my day working in our community with one of our community partners, Bellevue Reach, doing some work in one of our community members' house to really just help get it shaped up a little bit. So really it was great to get back to this service, and I think that's such an important part of the work. I really appreciated our speaker earlier, and one of the things that he talked about is just to know who you are and where you're from. And so just quickly, so you know a little bit about me, as I was born and raised in Denver, Colorado, and was raised by parents that did everything they could to try to help me assimilate into the country, and at that cost of not learning Spanish, which was my parents' first language. And so I've learned a lot from that experience, but my parents did everything they could to try to just help support and guide me. And my father was a high school dropout, my mom only finished high school. And so, they instilled education as being something that was important. And ever since that time, education has been one of the things that's been part of my life. And just tremendously proud to be the superintendent here, because it really allows me to be able to serve and to be able to try to create more opportunities for students to be able to try to find what really interests them. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Huaxia, Mr. Huaxia.
Okay. I'm Huaxia, a parent of Bellevue School District. I was born in mainland China, and until after graduated from the university, undergraduate student, and I moved to the UK for about several years. So I was taken there for life, and then I passed to back to China for a short period, and moved with my family to relocate here. So I have a multiple views about many several issues. So that seems to help me to make me involved with the recent Bellevue School District equity discussion. So for the last year, I was involved with the equity advice group, and we have multiple talks about the things, because as many things are new to me. For example, the word white. So at first I heard, because in the UK you don't heard white, you heard about England people, and or maybe people from Liverpool or something like that. So that's the big talk.
So I'm Francine Wiest. I'm a current school board member here in Bellevue. And just to also go off what our previous speaker talked about, Eric, about where we're from. So I'm a daughter of immigrants from China and from France. And I think I grew up with a lot of that "where are you from" question as well. And I think I'm very happy to be here today to talk about civic engagement, because those questions that he brought up about the, why not and what if, are the questions that I grew up with all the time, asking, partly because of what was put upon me, partly because of where I come from and who I am. And being that voice in the room, often the youngest in the room, asking those questions. I'm not so young anymore, but that's where I started. And being determined to keep asking those questions and to try to push the narrative and to make that positive impact and that change. And so I really support you who are doing that, and that's also why I'm on the Bellevue School Board. And I think it's really important that you find that voice, that you take charge of that power, and that you create the narrative and make that change.
I'm Zhao Wang. For the past 2 years, I was president for the Bellevue High School PTSA. So surprisingly, that's the only time I just jumped into the school life of my daughter. I did not know what's going on with her because as a career woman and travel continually for over like all year, I really don't know the school and don't know my daughter. So I try to make up for jumping myself to the PTSA, which I benefit so much this journey through this few years here. But also, I think it's very important. I feel it's my responsibility to make a contribution, not really coming just enjoy the beautiful Bellevue community and the school and the great school here and also the infrastructure here. I think I should do my part of the job to contribute. A short history, I'm working, as I mentioned, consistently for many corporate, GE, AP Number, Boeing, you name it, and also working around many countries, Hong Kong, Singapore, Chicago, then Beijing. For me, I was born around the city close to Shanghai, so I feel it's also new immigrants for now. So it's a privilege to be invited by Ms. Conrad Lee to be here to see you all today.
Thank you all. I will start out with some questions, and I think I'm going to have maybe Jennifer to answer the first, and then we go back the way it came. The first question would be, why is civic engagement important, and particularly in Bellevue School District?
So one is there's also this kind of question asked by a lot of new parents when they first come into this public school here in Bellevue. They say, this is public school. I mean, I'm all set by my school taking care of students and all expenses. So when we do the fundraising, which is a big deal of the PTSA for any school here, is critical. Because if you're aware that Washington State is very less funded for public school system, because you probably know you do not pay the state tax. That's one side of the story. But also, if you want to, we all want our kids to be success, but it's not success in academic only. We want kids to be success in physics and also well-being. So in that sense, we need to contribute to make this happen. So, but by PTSA is a great way. In general, the PTA is a very traditional organization across the U.S. All as a back 120 years history. So what they're doing is really to engage the community, to working together, to be connected for the parents. It's a very benefits for all the new parents coming, especially because some of them come in with no understand the system here. PTS really is a good way to be involved, but also it's the definite PTS is not only by one parent. I wasn't able to do the job without without all the board members and the tens of chairs, committee chairs, and also the generous of the parents and also time the volunteers. So this all needed to make it happen, and definitely the fundraising is important. Because for the PTSA, the civic engagement is to, mention that academically well-being. For well-being, it's very important. Like we're supporting the youth, East Side Youth Organization. have come in to talk to all the students because they have extreme pressure. They need to have confounded, the counselors coming to talk to, and also we sponsor all the, the music arts, and also we sponsor this all the boost club, the athletic boost club for the Bellevue High. You name it. This is the parents, all of the school, the school life of children, and all we agree that we want to make the success of our kids at the school in all well-being.
I understand that the schools here in the state of Washington depend a lot on private residents and people, parents like you, because the school funding is very limited from the state. The state provides basic funding, and so it's important for the parents to raise more money. So fundraising is very important. So thank you. And I want to go to Francine as the school board member. Besides, raising money is probably not a major thing. So what do you think? Why is civic engagement important?
Yes, well, civic engagement is critical because we each have a voice. And so how do you make that voice heard? How do you make your ideas, what you want, known? And civic engagement is the process by which that happens. And so we heard a little bit of talk about power, and it does come down to power because if you don't become civically engaged, if you don't learn how to exercise your voice, to put it in the proper channels, to have it heard, then you don't have power. And whether you're a youth, there comes a time when you realize, I sit all the time in these areas where I have unequal power dynamics, right? My parents have power over me, my teachers have power over me, like where's my power, where's my voice? And if civic engagement is the way where you begin to really identify what that voice is and how to use it. And so that's what we hope to nurture through the education process as well, so that when you go off into the world, become citizens that then have that voice, that have that power, and can use it to our collective good. Right? And for those of us who are older in the room, continuing to develop that voice, and again, being able to use it to create systems that work for all of us. Because there will come a time, even if you think the system's kind of working for you now, there will come a time or an issue where you realize, well, this isn't working for me or for the people I know or for all of us kind of collectively. And so what do we do about that? How do we enact change? And again, that's finding your voice, finding the power, and figuring that out. And so that's where civic engagement is really critical for each person to be able to develop your voice, your ideas, and transmit and share this.
The school board members are very powerful because they set the policy for the school district. So you are the boss, right?
Well, we're a partnership.
There we go. That's good. And Francine is elected by you, by the people, and so she needs to know what your thinking is. How to present you, what you think about your school, and how you want your school, what direction you want to take. So it's important that engagement, so that she can know what your interest is. So in order to do that, you have engagement.
Hear that voice.
Yeah.
Share it.
Thank you, Francine. And now we go to Mr. Huaxia, and he is on the schools a committee.
I'm part of the chair of the community.
Right. So maybe you can share some of the engagement that you have been involved with, and why is it important, and in that sense.
Yes, the community I involved with is the Bellevue School District is an equity advice group, which is one of the very important groups in our school district, which give the parents and other parties a chance to engage, to contribute a voice to shaping the current school district's policies on equity topic. The equity itself currently is one of the hottest issues in the education area. If you watch out the professional journals on education, you're looking for the legislators' discussion of these educations, you will hear a lot about equities. So this For Bellevue School District, because we have the uniqueness, because a few years ago, I think our Asian students just enrolled 10%, because this year it's almost 9%, more than 40%. So, and in Bellevue School District, you will find virtually the students with various backgrounds. So, such uniqueness makes such common hot topic create a lot of issues and open questions remaining to be answered. And I think this is a good challenge and a very good challenge and opportunities for everyone, for the parents, for the students to join into engage this topic, and maybe in the future we can lead this topic internationally. That's what I believe. So I think such engagement, civic engagement, is important in Bellevue's future.
Well, thank you, Huaxia. And now we can do the person that's taking all the heat or the shots. The superintendent, Dr. Duran, you have to carry out the policies of the school from your bosses and the bosses, and you got to also communicate, to the parents and the school programs and so on. So, in your opinion, so maybe you can share with us why is engagement important? Sometimes you figure maybe if there's no engagement, you can do everything you want to do. Then life is easy.
No, I think it's real important. So I think first and foremost, when I think about civic engagement, even at a large scale, being a citizen of the country, it's about solving problems. It's about really trying to figure out what are some of the issues and challenges that we're facing, and then collectively coming together to try to figure those problems out. I'm always interested when I hear individuals talk about something that may be of interest to them, either a challenge issue or a problem that they want to take on, and then to watch how powerful it is when you get other people with you on that idea to try to promote, debate, create opportunities to be able to take on different issues. So I think civic engagement is important because it really does get you involved with trying to solve some of the issues and challenges that are going on. And particularly here in Bellevue School District, I think, as you think about our community as a whole, I mean, Bellevue is a unique city because we're a tale of multiple cities. On one hand, you have the glitz of the high-rises and, really high standards of living, for some of our families. And then, like the experience that I had this morning working for one of our families that needed someone to come and help them just get their yard together, And so I'm always really clear about not trying to figure out how people got into the situation that they ended up in, but then trying to figure out what we can do to try to help them. So I'm just a firm believer that there's a number of issues and challenges that we have to solve together. And if we get people together on thinking about the same ideas, thinking about debating some of those ideas, and then really trying to think about what's going to be the best solution to try to meet the needs of most of our, especially our students, I think it just becomes so important. So I just believe that it's essential for us to always be coming together, trying to solve problems, try to think about what we can do to advance the good of everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Duran. You almost seem to have suggested, you as an example of some of the engagement, what you're doing, helping the community outside the school itself. So the next question will fit right into there. Do you have any more personal example of civic engagement that had a positive impact?
I'll speak to two, and I think especially for students, I think from a student perspective, is that over the last couple of years, one of the things that I have just been really, really impressed with within our community and within our schools is the power of our students. And the power of our students when they come together to solve an issue or challenge or to try to work to figure out what else can be done. And so one example is, we had some students from Newport High School coaches last year. They were students who were in the robotics program, and they were really struggling to have an effective place to be able to do their practice and be able to figure out where they can be able to prepare for their competitions. And they never really had a good space to learn. Oftentimes they were meeting, off campus in someone's garage. And so we had members of that club come and actually talk to the school board around the issues and challenges that they were facing. But one of the things that I loved about what the students did is they didn't come just to solve the issue that Newport was facing. They came because they were working to support some students at Bellevue High School that were trying to get a robotic program together, and they were working because they were also partnering with students from Mercer High School. So they kind of had this collective idea and thought around some way that they could make a difference. So there was a problem, and they came to the people that have the ability to sometimes make decisions and And fortunately, in this situation, we were actually able to find a space for them to be able to do their practice. And the thing I just really love about the group also is that a year later, after we were able to make the situation happen, is for them to come back and circle back to the board and say thank you for being able to do that. But I think, again, bringing people together and coming to solve a problem was a great example. And then I think another one of our high schools, that's Spanish High School, they had some challenges there at the school last year, and particular issues around race that arose at the school. And students just weren't feeling a sense of belonging. They weren't feeling affirmed, and really didn't feel like their identity was being recognized for some of the challenges that they faced. And unfortunately, some of the situations that they had some experience where some adults were telling them that the experience they were having really wasn't a big deal. They didn't need to worry about it. They didn't mean it. Don't worry too much about it. Well, the students did worry about it because they were being impacted on a daily basis, and so a group of students organized and actually came to the school board and spoke to us about some of the concerns, some of the worries, some of the issues that they were facing. And again, it was just a wonderful opportunity to hear from the people that we serve around some of the things that we're doing and how it was impacting them. And collectively, they came together to help us really think about what we could do to better support them. So those are two examples where I've seen some really good civic engagement by our students that really had some really positive outcomes.
Thank you. How about Huaxia, from your perspective of being a parent and also a member of the community?
Yes, I will share some positive impact for civic engagement from the family point of view, because since I involved with the equity discussions in the Bellevue School District and educate since, and I have a lot of touch with the communities from other race, black communities. So that's interesting because once we touched the registries and we found I went back to talk to my daughter, which is the older school, and have a wife, and my mother. And we found that's a very good topic. So to connect the family members together to share some of their common experience. Because I just tried to introduce the history of Black Panthers, of this American history in 1966. And because that's directly connected to my mother's history. And they have shared so many comments. And so sometimes, you have interconnections between three generations together in America about something in common. That's very unique. Because before that, I owed my mom and I only talked to my daughter about how can we get A, graduate A, or have a good dinners, which college we should go to, and which tutor we should have. And we never have a deep thinking about how about sexuality, how my kids fit into this sexuality, and what she will do, what she will do in the future of this country. So we never asked that question. So once we engage that much, these activities, I found we have more deep thinking and talking in the families. I think it's very important and positive impact. I would encourage other families to have some discussions. I think they will at least close the generation gap in the future. Definitely.
That's your own personal experience, very close to. How about your community?
Yes.
Connection.
Okay, for the community side, because before equity discussions in school districts, it seemed like my families were all talking about how to get to good colleges, and sometimes we were talking about which tutors programs good, and which academic would enroll, and what college we should get in, and of course, hope is better, right? Harvard is always better than UW, of course. And so
not of course, no.
Then people always think, that's the common thinking. But we have very few discussion about the societies and how our kids will fit in the society. Because the problem is, as a parents, we have a few knowledge, a few experience in this topic. So that creates some gaps. So sometimes our daughter, our societies talk about something. I think when we talk to other communities, we have a lot of confusions because many words, many concepts, their community say, wow, this already done in America for 40 years, but it's still very fresh to us. So that's a good chance to us to learn this basic concept and several improvements and about what the future of the problems of this, our societies. I think that's very good. So I think at least the people around me, they are gradually they understand what's going on here. I think it's important for particularly to the family as a first generation immigrant.
Thank you. Well, Francine, as board school board members, we must hear a lot from your constituents on a lot of issues. So, again, most important thing for you to be effective is to have community engagement. So you can share with us, what some of the things that positive impact.
Yeah, so community engagement is key, and so what I'll share is some tips that I've learned over the years being an advocate. I've had a role called a delegate where there is an issue, a resolution, something that somebody passionately wants. And they say, this is what I want. Can I have it? And that's a fine first step for civic engagement. But what's even more effective is when you have something that you want is to start to think of what is the way to get there? What are the steps? What are the paths? And to put yourself in the other person's shoes, put the other person's hat on, whatever metaphor you want to use, but think about the person that you're asking, the person, say, in power or who maybe has some decision-making ability, what's their perspective of it? What is their interest? What is the current system? What is it really about what you want that needs to be changed? And how could that change happen? So if you come to the table with that in mind, and those examples, maybe data or evidence, some ideas, even if you're not sure whether they'll work or not, at least you've thought that through and it begins a conversation. There's been more of a dialogue that can happen because you've thought a couple more steps ahead. So that's what I find ends up being really effective, and we are able to move the issues faster, further, and closer to ultimately what people want. Because sometimes they'll say, this is what I want, but then upon further probing and discussion, it's really kind of more over here on the side, and it required that conversation, which is fine. It's fun to have that conversation as well. But the more that you can come at when you want to be civically engaged or you're asking for something with that, the better. The other thing is it's okay to dream big. Just really swing for the fences. If you have an idea, go for it. I mean, that is a lot of the power of youth, and I'll give two brief examples. They're not from the Bellevue School District, but it just gives you the idea of the scale of it. I'm a physician, so back when I was a medical student, we always heard about the story of a medical student who wanted to end smoking. And she had this idea that you should just not have smoking on planes. And at that time, it was a very radical idea. And people never thought it would happen. But it worked its way up as an idea through a resolution in the medical student section, and eventually the American Medical Association, and eventually, as you know now, you cannot smoke on planes. I also heard a speech one day where someone came up and they had this idea that there shouldn't be any advertising for smoking on billboards. And again, people thought that would never happen because there were just too many powerful interests, there was money involved, that it wouldn't happen. And it did happen. And so just through civic engagement, people really caring and saying, I have this big crazy idea, and here's a way I think that we can make an impact on it. You can make that happen. And then the last thing I want to say, because I've been advocating for this, and this is already, especially for the youth in this room, if you don't know that you can now pre-register, if you're a citizen, you can pre-register to vote if you're 16 or 17 years old, you can, and you should. And so what that means is that the first election after you're 18, you will automatically get your ballot for where you're registered. And so you can do that. And so I've been promoting that on my Facebook page, Civic Engagement 101. Voting is your most powerful tool as a citizen, and so if you are able, you should be doing it. Vote in the primaries if you have your ballot, you haven't turned it in yet, and if you're 16 or 17 years old, pre-register.
Just by PTSA, it's important is the engagement. So the engagement is the communication. So knowledge in the Bellevue School District, the diversification of the population. For Bellevue High, we make efforts to reach all the parents as we can. So we created 2 ways to do that. We offer the weekly news, we call Blast. It translates into multiple languages. And for Chinese version, which I don't know whether some parents are receiving that one from Bellevue High, we have, at the beginning, it's already parents, but we thought it's a good idea for the scholars to engage as well, because it's kind of as a contribution to their volunteer services and experience. So gradually we get all the kids to come into the translation, and now we have 42 people in the translation group for Chinese version only. But also we had before had a version for Korean or other language. But they also offer the what we call multi-language breakfast with our principal, Dr. Anderson. There we have translation in Chinese, Korean, Japanese, I don't know, it's just also maybe Russian, or we have multiple language to passing the message from the school to all the parents that they have some the language efficiency. So we try to engage all. That's important because that's the way we do the real impact to those parents who know what's going on. We are connected. And the result of that, I will say not 100% because the weekly news, but also we definitely see the result that the donation, which is a big part of the PTSA job, big jump from this new families coming, as they realize how important of the PTSA and the engagement, and also the important programs we founded to support our kids to all be success. So that's why I feel like, again, this is all parents, all students can do all different things in the civic engagement and services. Just your raise a hand, there's tons of opportunity there.
It's definitely a very positive impact, Money speak talk, right? You can raise your fundraising after, that's great. We a little bit behind, so I'm going to rush a little bit. The next question would be, what roles do you believe students have in civic engagement, and how does it relate to a student's leadership development? So quickly.
As I said, we offer this the leadership role to our students to lead on the translation effort. That's part of always that's good things for them.
Thank you. Francine.
Okay, again, it's just finding your voice, being willing to use it. It's okay if it starts out and you're not sure what to say, or you feel timid or shy. Other people in the room are going to feel that way too. But go ahead and express it. Maybe if you just start out among your friends, maybe then you find an issue that's really important to you. I'm trying to go out directly to the schools and talk with students at lunchtime and just be there. So if you see me, come and talk and just express some of your ideas, and then we can see where we take it from there. But it's just really important to just have those discussions and dialogue. And what we as a school board try to do is support that, and try to encourage people to remember what it is not to know, what it is not to have made that first speech in front of our group, what it is not to have figured out that path, and to try to make that path available and more transparent, so that people take that opportunity and are able to express themselves and are on that road to civic engagement and citizenship.
So what do you think, Huaxia?
Yeah, what I think is, as Francis say, at 17 or 16 or 17, you start to vote. So that means you are same as other people. So I think even you are thinking yourself a teenager or student, you are same as other people. So has the same rights, and you can take leadership. maybe you can drive your parents, your other people, to do the things you're passionate about. So don't afraid say, hey, I'm younger, so I just try to follow something or follow the tasks the people give you, but you can create your own ways. That's what I say.
Thank you.
All right, very good. If you're a student in the room, raise your hand. Raise them high. All right, quick test to you. How many of you know, don't put your hands down, know the Bellevue School District vision statement? Anybody? All right, our vision statement says to affirm and inspire each and every student to learn and thrive as creators of their future world. So each of those words were very intentional when we came through this process to really think about what does it mean to have this vision that's aspirational. We want our students to feel affirmed, we want them to feel inspired, we want them to really have all the conditions so they can thrive, but most importantly, creators of their future world. And one of the things that I always tell students is that your future world is today. And when I think about our world today, there are a lot of problems that need to be solved. And so even in your own context, you may not be struggling, you may not have issues or facing challenges, but when you compare and you see other students in your school or people in the community that are struggling or facing some kind of difficulty, that's where I think civic engagement becomes important, because you have to really then get involved and start to talk to those people to understand what their experience is, and then to see what you can do to try to make a difference, because ultimately I believe that we're all here to serve, and we're ultimately all here to try to make this place a better place for all of us. And you take issues like, for example, one that's really, a big topic, not only at national level, but even here at the local level, is issues around immigration. But and many people are impacted by immigration, but we have to spend time understanding what their experiences are, and then trying to figure out what some of those solutions are. And again, you may have a great idea, but it's going to take a collection and a group of people to really coalesce around that idea to really bring those together. So I think students play a critical role in trying to solve the problems that we face today, both locally and at a global level.
Oh, what aspirational, yeah, people. What an aspirational vision statement is. I would like to borrow yours.
I'll come back and we'll do the test again.
There you go. I'll be on trademark on it. So anyway, that's great. So next time we see a lot more. Well, you can most of you can articulate it. One more is questions. What are the barriers? We talk about what the kids' student role should be in, how people should participate in civic engagement. So the question is, what are the barriers for people participating in civic engagement? How have you worked to address these barriers? Starting with Dr. Duran.
Well, I would just say, I think the first thing that came to my mind when I hear that is that I think there's a level of apathy, I think, that sometimes happens in our society where, things are going pretty well for me, feel pretty good, comfortable, life is going pretty well. And I don't really think about, some of the issues or challenges that are going on. But somewhere next door to you, it's another student, a neighbor, somebody else could be having a totally different experience. So I think it's important to really make sure that people understand, just the lived experiences of people, and again, going back to what the keynote speaker talked about around just understanding when people say who I am and where am I from, to really help just build that context, really think about what you can do. And then I think the other part is that oftentimes, as I talk to students, many times what I hear is that they don't know exactly what to do. They don't know what the processes are. They don't even understand their own rights as a citizen, and especially as a student in our district. And so I think we try to spend as much time as possible trying to help our students understand that. But I think this whole idea around civic engagement is something that we still have a lot of work to do. I am excited because we are going to be launching a new civic engagement curriculum this year. It's going to be K through 12. It's going to be basically, having our students really think a little bit more around just, how can you work to solve problems locally, and how do you then think about how you can solve problems at a global level, both from a multiple perspective lens, but then also from a cultural competency lens, so that we can really make sure that as we work to solve issues and challenges that we face today, we're doing it in a way that really does meet the needs and very sensitive to those that we're trying to help along the way.
Thank you. Yeah. Huaxia, since the same question for you, but I just want to add, since your baptism to the Bellevue School District involvement to the hot topic of equity. And so maybe you can talk a little bit, because of time, I'm going to combine the question a bit. What, from that perspective, the equity, what barriers do you see for people, who are involved in the issue, and how have you worked to address this particular issue?
To engage in it, to let the first immigrants, families like mine, to understand the equities as a topic, the various school districts is really, really challenging because there's indeed a lot of barriers. The first obvious barrier is language. So, language and culture, because like my family previously, we live in WeChat, to be honest. So we get most information from WeChat, we get all the ideas from WeChat. But those WeChat create a lot of, the WeChat create a circle, make people stay inside. You get a lot of information, but meanwhile, they actually build the barriers, so you don't get the life update from the other parents from other communities and what happens in this city. So that's the barriers we are facing. And the second barrier is to our American education system is totally different from the Chinese education system. They have different settings, different goals, and so you need to, once you want to involve with equities, first of all you need to understand how, for example, how school district set up, and what's the school board do, and what's the policies do, and what's going on from the federal, from the state, from the school district, from the PTSA, and many third parties, and how these things work together to do these things. And in China, you don't have that too much chance to involve with that, because every year suddenly you get, some government to say, oh, this year we do this, that year we do that. So here, many things that if you want to do this, you need to be involved, or you need to ask someone involved, or you need, you need to develop yourself, take a lot of time. So to make this barrier create a lot of conflicts, because sometimes you think, why would you do that? And you will heard someone say, already done this 5 years ago, and there's a paper, and you need to search. Something like that. That's create a huge barriers for the parents that made. So what we do in the last past years, in fact, I think 70% of time, we try to understand what the American education system is. And then you can talk about equities, why you need to do the equities. And this is major issues, and we would like to, actually with our parents who are pioneering on this topic, we're forming a group and we try to help more parents to make sure to reduce the barrier, remove these barriers, to make all the other parents to easy to understand the whole things. And we would like to work with the board and the school district, making things easier. So that's the second barrier. And another one is equity itself. This equity, the major challenge of equity is this open issue. It's about many years in the United States, but still, until now, still very open issues. And it's a change every year. I can see that change.
So the keynote speaker kind of talked a little bit about the history.
Yeah. So that's create another barrier because it takes a lot of time to understand. Because for Native American people, they understand quite easily because they grow up here. They understand what's going on 20 years ago. But we don't. We don't understand what's going on here and why we need to do the equity. Sometimes the people, even equity and equality, people debate hours because everybody has different thinking about the equity and equality. But you ask local American people, they understand this concept quite naturally because they grown up here. Oh yes, in the past, you frequently heard that in the past 20 years ago it's like this, and now it's like that. And 20 years ago, I mean, if you just move to this here 7 years ago, something like that, you probably won't get that kind of sense. So that creates another barrier. So all these barriers together and the intersectionally, create a huge, challenge to the immigrant families. So that's the only thing. And we have a couple of parents actively working here in this topic. So first one, we try to make sure the parents can understand the whole thing, what's going on here, as soon as possible, and then they can contribute. That's the whole thing we do. We do our group did this for about a couple of months now. I think we make a lot of alignments, and we try to find this root issue of precise information. So that's what we'll do. And I'm happy to say we're completing about 60% of the whole progress. And now at least I know how long it is and how many percentage we achieved. So we would like, if anyone has interest, you can contact me. I would like to have more discussion about it. I know there's more things to do.
Thank you. Since it's a hot topic and obviously a very important topic for the Bellevue School District, maybe Francine can talk about it a little bit, but then I also like to open up to other panelists, including Dr. Duran, if you have anything to add to this discussion. Go ahead.
Well, so I think what's already been articulated about barriers and about equity really captures a lot of what the discussion is. And so again, it goes back to, it's knowledge, time, access, opportunity. There can be language, there can be not understanding certain aspects of the culture. It's what don't you know is what gets in the way of civic engagement. And sometimes it's apathy, it's just comfort. And so not knowing to ask questions of beyond your own circle of comfort, beyond your own little echo chamber of hearing kind of the same things over and over. So expanding your outreach, because partnership is really important in civic engagement. So reach out to someone who's not like you, make a new friend, talk to that person sitting next to you on the bus. Wherever it is that will just expand your horizons and perhaps create a new partnership so that you can work together and affect change. I think sometimes you don't even know what questions to ask, and that can be a real barrier. And if you don't know what to ask, here's a question you can try. So sometimes I have a little question, I call up whatever organization or something I need to know about, and then I'll ask them, because they're the experts. I'll say, so is there anything else I should know that people usually ask? And that's just a question, and you can some variation of that where you ask experts what it is that you should know. So you're just constantly trying to educate yourself. And so that's one way. Of course, reading, right? All about education. Whatever material is that you can read, I mean, the internet is right there in everyone's pocket probably. So there's a wealth of information, but make sure you're reading not just from the same sources or not just from your WeChat, that you're going out and maybe reading from a source that you normally wouldn't, so that you get that different set of perspectives. And when you do that, that all ties back into equity, right? So equity is really providing the resources that each person needs to succeed. And so for your own personal success, right, it's finding your voice, it's getting educated, and understanding as you do that, and in those partnerships, that we are all one community, and that we do rely on each other for our global, our community success. And in that, we might each have different needs and different roles. So we are like a big team. So if you think of like a baseball team, right? So the person who's the pitcher needs slightly different training than maybe the person who plays first base, or the person who wants to be the designated hitter. And so we have different needs, and equity addresses those needs by providing the resources or the training or the support so that we can each achieve our full potential, and that together then as a team, we are the best team, the best community, the best global alliance we can be.
The barrier for a lot of parents is, I'm too busy, so I will not involve PTSA, or I have the language barriers. Actually, so once the PTSA is not really, there must be the volunteer. So we need to also try get this message out to let people understand what the PTSA, what the volunteer. So we also talk about this workshop or conference or seminars. Also, we through to to like Chinook, the big school to Bellevue High, talk to their parents, what they need to prepare for their life coming to high school. Most parents say, okay, the kids once they take off to high school, my job for the PTSA is done. So high school is all taken care by the kids. So we have just again the communication, just the barriers there, but get as much as information to reach all the people as needed. And for example, we have a group of people, Spanish group people. They have also they're special, so we create a kind of pizza lunch. So they have a group of people can talk to each other if any question. So we have the parents there to supporting them. So it's like various of the outreach to those people. So they have barriers, but actually we try to create this the opportunity for them to be reached.
Thank you. Oh, Dr. Duran, you have the last word, if anything to add.
Conversation around equity.
Yes.
Well, I would say this, it was, I definitely say it still always will be a hot topic, but I think especially within our community, part of what really became a hot topic is I think there was a lot of fear in our community around that if we really think about meeting the needs of each and every student, then something's going to be taken away from me or going to be taken away from my student. And in all the conversations and all the work that we did here in Bellevue, that was never part of the conversation or anything that we said. Unfortunately, there was some other stuff that was happening around our school districts and other school districts where that kind of leaks into our district. And so we've really been adopting and really trying to and change that narrative, because here in Bellevue, we are incredibly fortunate to be able to have, really a lot of great resources for our students and for our community. And so we are in a position right now to be able to really work to meet the needs of each and every student. That to me is what equity is about. And so as we think about our students who may be struggling a little bit more than other students, we have to think about how we can better support them. So that's what we're really working on. And then really just wanted to just hit a little bit around the funding issue around the state level that was brought up earlier, because depending on what data source you look at, we're probably somewhere in the middle of around the 50 states at least around how Washington State funds education. So we're not the top. New York is the top right now. But there's still a lot of work to be done in that area. And so when I think about civic engagement, I think we're really going to be leaning on the community to help us, because there's going to be a real big opportunity for us to try to work with our legislators, to work with our local community, really think about how we can keep providing those resources so that people can continue to have all the wonderful resources and opportunities we have here in Bellevue. So that's going to be an ongoing conversation. But again, equity is about ensuring that everyone receives what they need to be successful.
Thank you, Dr. Wang. I think,
Correct.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I would like to speak to some students here. I'm going to add something to speak to the students here. So, if you watch the equities current ongoing things, if as Asian students, you can think about you can take a leadership, because so many materials strongly influence the final resolution for equities and maybe the racial equities and the racial conflicts. The final resolver maybe from the Asian communities, because so many materials have strong implications for that. So for the equities and other topics, social topics, I think for the Asian student, you don't need to just follow the others. You can think about yourself and take a leadership over this topic. And our Bellevue school district provide, as far as I can see, the Bellevue school district provides the best environment in the nation for take a lead in this topic. So I would like to see our students do that.
Yeah. Dr. Duran said it very well that although Bellevue on the scale of funding probably mid of the pack, but I think we do all agree that Bellevue is one of the best school districts in the nation, right? It is that. I want to thank the panel for such a wonderful discussion, and they all actually demonstrated their role of community engagement. Each of them have done beyond what they are supposed to do. Dr. Duran, he's hired, so he has to do this, but he's doing beyond what he's called to do, because this challenge facing the Bellevue School District with the new McClary Act in the state, that Bellevue will be facing a challenge of keeping up, maintaining its high standard, high quality to educate great, wonderful young people like yourself. So I think we need to even be more in our way for more engaged curriculum. But again, thank each of you for taking your role. Duran, Huaxia, and Francine, Jennifer, you've done, again, sacrifice your time and effort and so for the benefit of the community through our young people, for you and for the parents. So thank you very much. Let's give them a big hand.